All right, so and so you didn't see the link from the first class either. Yeah.
I saw the link. I was going to come, and then I ended up not being able to. We were camping.
Oh, and I meant the link to the recorded.
No, I didn't. So I can find that.
Yeah. So if you just go to the meetup group, and then there's like discussions.
Oh yeah.
And I think I posted one by itself, like, hey, here's the recording to the class, and then replied to several posts with that.
Okay.
So if you want to look that up, you're welcome to. Perfect. Just briefly, Jesse, I had a pretty crazy food journey about 10 years ago, and tried all kinds of things. And I did vegetarian, vegan, all kinds of things, and finally found deep nutrition. And it just turned things around. Like, you can do vegetarian and vegan fairly well, which I didn't. I just thought it was like, avoid these things, and then you're gonna be fine. So I found that, and then I found cure tooth decay, and yeah, stopped my cavities that I was just having tons, and then they just stopped cold and dead. It was awesome. Repaired like the more mild ones, and then like through nutrition, and then dentist through the more bigger work. And since then, in 10 years, I've had, I don't think, any fresh cavities I can remember. Maybe like old work, like old things breaking down, fillings and stuff. So that was just a big like wake up call. I was like, I need to share this. And I've taught nutrition classes, and I've moved and been busy with other things, and then started teaching, and then I have to move. And so anyway, so starting back up again. And these are the books that I love so much. So did you tell her about the other ones much at all, or just that one?
Mainly that one.
And that's
I got it from the library, started reading it. I was like, oh, she's gonna like this one.
I did. I just read the intro or whatever. And I was like, I'm just gonna buy it.
It's awesome. So that's the one that started off for me. Actually, the first edition of that, which was a lot smaller, which is what it would have probably intimidated me. I seemed like that's pretty big. But the audiobook's really great too if you like audiobooks. And then this is by the same author. And it's much smaller, much easier to handle. It's like each chapter, if you can call it that, is like a page or two. And it's just like point by point what to do, and a little bit about why. That's the deep inner science about why. So that's a cool one. Yeah.
You don't have to read the whole book.
I know your commitment level. You should have this one.
Yeah.
And then this is Sally Fallon. This is I love the subtitle. So it's Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictates. So most nutritionists tell you avoid saturated fat, avoid animal products, and all these things. This challenges that completely. These are all a bunch of old-fashioned recipes from all over the world put into one. Some of my favorites are the fermented condiments. So old-fashioned ketchup and mustard and mayonnaise, they're all fermented. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that one, these are all in line with each other. This is just if your main problem is cavities, how to fix that. This is if you have basically whatever's wrong with you. It's got how to fix it with the same nutrition, but also healing the life force body, the emotional body, and the mental body. Yeah. So first 4 chapters about that, and then what ails you. We'll
find the topic. Very cool.
Exactly. So that's fun. Yeah. And then some supplements that I think are pretty neat. For the most part, I'm not much for supplements, but they have their place. Standard process you might be familiar with, but they do a really good job. I just love reading the ingredients on these. So bovine adrenal gland, bovine pituitary gland, bovine thyroid gland. And so like cures like, and those are some really important glands.
And they're all standard processes, right?
Those are, yeah. This is kind of cool. It's a similar price to buying a big thing of bone broth, but it's single serve. And so you can like throw one on your dashboard for an hour, and it's like nice and warm. You just drink it. And a little
I didn't realize they came in.
I know.
Serving. My husband would love that. He drinks it all the time. But we have the carton.
And then you open it, and it's only good for so long.
Yeah.
But this one you just drink it all. And then Green Pasture has fermented cod liver oil. This is probably, in my mind, the most important supplement. And anyway.
So you do these instead of like eating the liver?
I eat the liver too.
I tried so hard. I can't do it.
I have some recommendations for you.
Good. I'm gonna need them. I keep trying. I buy it, and then I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work.
Sure. Let's do it this way. Are you all able to stay basically full time, 7:30 or so, or 8? Yeah. Okay. So let me just kind of run through this. It'll be mostly pretty quick on the theory, especially if you're both are planning to read that. You're going to get all of this and more. But we'll run through it so we have a lot of the reason behind it to motivate us to do it, or to give liver another try in different forms and everything, and then we'll go into like applied 4 pillars. How do we actually get it into the diet? If you need a recipe, if you need an idea for a different way to get liver, all that kind of stuff. All right, so I didn't make slides because I have an okay video that I can just like use what was already written. So the 4 pillars of the human diet or of world cuisine, what all traditional major cultures had in their diet, at least, a couple hundred years ago, I'd say they were all doing it, and much longer before that as well. And then more modern days, more and more everywhere, they're kind of dropping away from it. Different ones at different rates. US used to be great, and then for quite a while now, we've been terrible. Like, we just don't do organ meats. We don't do raw milk. We have a lot of things going wrong. We don't do a lot of bone broth, especially at home. So one way to have a quite healthy diet is to take a culture's traditional food and copy it exactly, because they all use the same 4 sets of strategies. And those strategies are meat cooked on the bone, so rotisserie chicken, and then also in this category is bone broth. So in the US, we mostly separate the meat from the bone, cook it separate, and we don't get a lot of those nutrients to come out of the bone and the bone marrow, a lot of calcium, magnesium, glycosaminoglycans for our joints. Those things don't do so well from heat and oxygen and time in like supplements generally. So we need it a bit fresher in better forms, more whole forms. The second thing that they do is soaked, sprouted, and fermented. So soaked oatmeal used to be the norm in like yogurt and water. Sprouted lentils, sauerkraut. Many will say that traditional bread is always sprouted, fermented, maybe both, and that completely changes the grain, breaks down really hard to digest things. So then we don't get celiacs, we don't get gluten intolerance, because that gluten has been broken down and it doesn't have to destroy our gut anymore. And then this adds beneficial bacteria to our gut too from the sauerkraut that's actually traditionally fermented, not just packed in vinegar like you usually see on the shelf. It's gross. And a big part of this too is the idea that plants don't want to be eaten, and so they grow a lot of things to try to harm what's eating them so they don't get eaten into extinction. One example that I really love is cabbage. Cabbage has neurotoxins naturally occurring, and that's part of why they taste bitter. Our tongues, a lot of times, if we taste something bitter, it means there's something toxic. Not always. It could be antioxidants, which in too large of a quantity can be damaging and toxic. So anyway, so with cabbage, you need to either steam it, cook it, or pound it and ferment it into sauerkraut, and then it transforms that into much easier to digest, probiotic, excellent nutrition.
Do you ferment your own stuff?
I do. Okay. I do. Depending on how busy I am, I'll pony up for some decent products in the supermarket that is fermented. But in general, I ferment my own stuff. I love the ketchup, the fermented ketchup, and the mustard, and the mayonnaise, and the sauerkraut. It's really cheap and easy, so much cheaper and easier, or so much cheaper at home. It takes a little bit of work. You just pound it for 10 minutes, stuff it in a bottle, salt, caraway seeds, whey, and cabbage. So, yeah. And feel free, to ask questions anytime. Feel free to interrupt me. I won't get mad. All right, so the third set of strategies is organ meats and the nasty bits. So things like liver, kidney, tendon, bone marrow. These things will call up memories I just love to share. So I lived in China for a long time, and something crazy is one time I got to fly first class, like a company was flying me somewhere, and they had tendon served on the plane in first class. Like a lot of these foods in fancy restaurants, in like high class places, they'll still do this, and other countries more commonly too. China is not degrading at nearly the rate many other countries are as far as their food culture. Like it's strong, and their elderly are like the chefs of the house, and they live together, and they go out like every morning to the fresh market, get fresh ingredients, spend the day like making food for the family, keeping everyone strong and healthy, and their brains solid, you know, their memories solid.
How was the tendon?
It was awesome.
Yeah?
It was delicious. It wasn't too firm.
That's
like,
that's what I would think. Like, you can't chew it.
Yeah, it mostly melted in my mouth. There were some places with the bones and the joints, so it was cooked with the bone too. Some places where the tendon kind of slowly turns into cartilage, that it starts to get harder.
Yeah.
And as you'll find in deep nutrition, it's good to try as best you can to kind of gnaw on it, like get all you can. You know, I had a roommate in China who was from the boonies, like old fashioned in China. He had the most amazing teeth, straight teeth, like really good. Never did orthodontics, straight, healthy, strong teeth. And he would cook for us a lot, and he'd sometimes cook the bones to where they're fairly soft, and you could kind of get some of it off. Like I could get some of it off.
Oh, yeah.
He could typically eat the whole bones most of the time. Like he could chew them, and then that makes his teeth stronger, and then he can eat more bones, and it's a great cycle. Whereas we get no bones here, and so anyway. All right, and then the fourth strategy is fresh and raw of plant and animal products. So that doesn't mean eat all of your plants raw. The right ones at the right times raw. Some gently cooked, and then so fresh meaning it hasn't spent forever in the grocery store and like in transit to the grocery store. And you can't always get it right fresh off the vine, but the closer to that you can get, the better. And a big reason for that, and we'll go into it, is antioxidants. Antioxidants don't do great in the presence of oxygen, especially when the plant dies. The more time, oxygen, heat, and what am I looking for? When you start packing stuff, processing, the more the antioxidants degrade and lose their electrons, and they can't do their awesomeness as well anymore. So some examples of this are like raw egg yolks. So an over easy egg, cooking the whites should be cooked. The whites have biotin blockers that we don't want in their raw form. But the yolks, you can do them cooked sometimes. You should do them raw sometimes too, because you just get a little bit different things. When you cook things, the proteins denature, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but you should get a variety of forms of nutrients. Let's see here. Raw milk. I could go for days about why raw milk is a great idea. Steak tartare, if you're not familiar, it's a raw meat dish. So ground beef or ground bison or ground elk, and butter, honey, cayenne, and then you can add various things. I'll add some like Celtic sea salt. I love to add fermented sauerkraut in there too, and it gives a nice kick. It also kind of protects it, that the beneficial bacteria will keep bad bacteria from taking over too fast. So if I make a big old 1 pound batch and I'm going to spread it over 2 or 3 meals, I've got some time to let it sit in the fridge and and just warm up however much I want. And that's popular around the world in different forms. Depending on where you go, it might be called something different. They might do a little different. I found this, they call it something different, but I found it in Boise, Idaho. There was like an Ethiopian restaurant, and it was very spicy. It was very delicious. And I think it was butter. If it wasn't, it was something very similar for the fat they mix with it. And so there you go. So there's the 4 sets of strategies. So, and with cooking meat, you want to have it with the bone. The more different parts of the animal you can cook it with, the better. Cook it with the joints, cook it with the tendons, cook it with the skin. So like, again, a great example of this is like rotisserie chicken or Thanksgiving turkey, and especially keeping the moisture in to slowly break down those complex nutrients and protein and everything.
You're talking about ways of cooking it, because like, to me, rotisserie is like instant heat, whereas like Dutch ovens, heat bend,
Keep in like moisture
Keep
or
in moisture and like, I don't know, just a different cooking process. So.
yeah. So in Deep Nutrition, page 242, so it's got meat on the bone and it's got cooking meat, rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4.
Oh, okay.
So rule 1 is don't overcook it. So if you use quality meat and it's fairly fresh, you don't need to worry a ton about pathogens typically. Especially if it's been frozen for 14 days first, that should kill anything real nasty in there.
14 days.
And a lot of stores get their meat in frozen, and part of it's because of that is to kill pathogens. And typically in transit, in time sitting in the store, it will have been 14 days. You can ask the meat department guy, like, hey, do you know how long this has been frozen? Was it frozen before it's thawed? If there's thawed meat there, a lot of times they'll know. There is a place at the farmers market called Maddox Farms, and they do everything themselves. They're by Malad in Idaho, but they come to this farmers market to sell. I quizzed him, like, will you know how long it's been frozen? Because they sell it frozen. He's like, yeah, I'll know everything about the meat. I'll know when it was packed. I'll know what went into those animals. Like, they do really great processes. And they sell liver there, too. They sell frozen liver, ground heart.
But it's always sold out. Every time
I got it one time.
I try to pre-order it because you can pre-order and then pick it up. Never been able to get it. But I know they have it.
Yeah. I got it one time and it tasted really great.
Yeah.
And I'll do steak tartare. I did steak tartare with the ground heart.
Oh.
And my favorite thing is at Natural Grocers, they have ground bison meat with heart and liver blended into it. And I'll do steak tartare with that.
Okay.
So I'll have that raw with butter and honey and cayenne. So anyway, yeah. So don't overcook it. You don't want to cross. I want to say it's 170 degrees. Typically, it depends on what you cook. Yeah, temperature rises above 70 degrees, then it'll be more likely that it'll dry out. You want to try to keep the moisture in. You can baste it to keep the moisture in. Have good fat and oil around. Use moisture time in parts, so more of the animal around. Use the fat. Do not fear the fat. We want animal fat. And number 4 was make bone broth, wherever it went.
So it's got the subcategories.
It does. This is a section in the middle called. This is specifically going over the 4 pillars of the human diet. So this is like what to do, why, and a lot more. I don't know what to call the rest, but it's gold. Like, I love it. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, that's nice.
So yeah, cook the meat on the bones. Bones are nutrient stores. Don't overcook it. Keep it moist. Eat the marrow when you can. Marrow is excellent. Gnawing on joints and letting joints go into the broth and everything. It's a much fuller family of glycosaminoglycans, and they're a lot less damaged by time and heat and everything. Soaked, sprouted, fermented. I feel like you guys are pretty on the same page, so we don't have to take too much time, but going into so many things that people don't realize are fermented or have fermentation as part of the process. Cheese, bread, yogurt, beer, wine, chocolate, coffee, pickles, sauerkraut, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, all traditionally fermented. Chocolate. You've got to, I might get the wording wrong, but they take the cocoa beans with, I think, kind of the fruit around it, whatever comes around it. They ferment that for a very long time, and they have to like rotate it, and they'll have it out in kind of the sun, and they'll ferment that for a while, and then they'll maybe dry it more, and they'll grind it up. So yeah, tons of things traditionally were fermented. And very, very importantly, bread. Like bread, the way we make bread now, normally, it's so quick, and we just grind it dry. We didn't have the technology to do that before. If you try to take those old-fashioned grinding stones and grind wheat, they just pop out, they just fly around, like, it just doesn't work. Fermentation, some people hear fermentation and it kind of freaks them out, and they don't want to really get into it, and they think rotting and stuff. Fermentation is an enzymatically controlled transformation of organic product. It's basically our digestion. It's like digesting before we get it in there. And I think another term for it is anaerobic respiration. Like, it's a way of unpacking nutrients and releasing energy, and shouldn't be feared. Oh, and another thing, and people will think, well, there's live stuff in it, there's live bacteria. Our digestive system is like 1 trillion parts living other things, and then 1 part us, just giving it the tube to do its work. And so again, just starting that process early, just like chewing is a big part of digestion, like breaking it up. We can do this part outside the body so that it's even easier, takes less energy to digest, and drains us less so that we can do more of what we love.
Do you make sourdough?
I do. Not at this moment, but I used to make it a ton.
Yeah.
I treat it every day, and I'd make all kinds of things. The craziest one I made is this one. I like to brag sometimes. Let's see. Natural yeast bread. It's fun. I have. It's got a recipe index that's really great, and it's got a catalog of vegetables. So it's got the main basic easy ways to cook vegetables, like usually separate from everything else, and what to pair them with to get the most nutrition. So for example, potatoes, it'll say cook it for 350 degrees for an hour and a half, but first you cut off the tips if it's like russet potatoes, or you poke it with a fork if it's sweet potatoes, and then pair it with butter and salt and or olive oil. All right, natural yeast.
You don't have to look at it. I can reference it.
It's $4.92, but basically it's you make your own sourdough from rye, and then you juice grapes there's kind of like it's not really wine, it's called grape cooler, and there's like basically no alcohol, but it's fermented grape juice, and so you use the pulp from juicing the grapes to make the bread, and it's really cool. And the whole thing takes like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Mostly passive time, like you're not doing stuff for 2 weeks. Like it's like
a process.
Yeah, it's like you guys play together, and I'll come back tomorrow and then feed them. All right, keep playing, keep culturing.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's maybe not a great first sourdough recipe, but once you're ready for a challenge. Let's see here. For the first 10,000 years of wheat and grain cultivation, we couldn't crush dry kernels into flour, so we're just not used to it. Like, it's such a big change. We can't handle the bread that are nowadays. We can skip a lot of this. Another really big anti-nutrient in grains is phytic acid. And phytic acid is, in my understanding, storage form phosphorus. It's incomplete phosphorus. And so it needs more nutrients to be able to be stable and to be usable. And wheat, oats, they'll have these things. And so I had oatmeal a lot growing up. We didn't soak it. We didn't ferment it first. And we didn't add enough butter to it, in my opinion, and cream. We do okay with cream, but butter was lacking a little bit growing up. And then we do homemade whole wheat bread without fermenting it. And so those two things, like I just had cavities. Every time I went to the dentist, like 3 cavities or something. I knocked that off. I started properly preparing my grains and having plenty of butter and good fats, and it just stopped. It was just amazing. And other good stuff. This was helpful too. All right, so you guys are into bread, organ meats. Yeah, not too long ago, even in the U.S., organ meats were normal and important. In The Joy of Cooking, the 1953 edition, it had recipes for calf brain fritters, meals from liver, kidney, tongue, heart, head, thymus, all in The Joy of Cooking. Like, we used to do okay.
Yeah.
We just don't anymore.
That's right.
Probably we went to butcher still. We didn't go to like Smith's.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You can't even get that stuff.
Yeah, you had to like
Right.
go
Right.
to
I don't have that. Yeah.
the butcher.
Yeah, that's true.
But back then the butcher would save it more, and
Oh, yeah.
and people would
Yeah.
buy it more, and it was more normal, and you don't have to. Nowadays you go to the butcher, you're like, hey, can I get thymus? They're like, I don't even know. I suppose, but why? That's weird. And so you have to be like shamed every time you gotta like look for good stuff. It's getting better. Like, I love that at Natural Grocers you can buy liver, you can buy marrow bones, you can buy the bison with the liver and the heart mixed in. Like, it's there are some pretty cool products, and the movement, I think it's growing. I see more and more people, and I hear more and more people realizing these things and bringing it back.
Have you asked Maddox if you can get brain?
Maddox?
Yeah.
Oh, the farms place?
Yeah. I'm
No,
just
I
curious.
haven't. I haven't. I bet you can, because he told me that if you buy it from him ahead of time before he comes to market, then he doesn't have to go through like the FDA, because it's your product.
Right.
So he doesn't have to check it with anyone. You get to say how it should be.
It's like if you buy a cow.
If you buy a cow,
Yeah.
then that belongs to
Yeah.
you. And I know of people who buy cows, and I have a friend who like goes and butchers the cow. He's like a roaming butcher, and so
Yeah.
he'll go there, butcher, and sometimes he'll save stuff for me. And he'll save the tail, he'll save the kidneys, he can do thymus. The brain is tougher because it's hard to get to.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're in
Right.
the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as he's got the tools, or he's willing to get the tools, or he's willing to put in the work.
I didn't think about that part.
Yeah, but I bet he would, and even if he at first is like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to get into that, if you really want it, you're like, well, how much would it maybe
Yeah,
worth
yeah,
to you?
yeah.
And maybe it wouldn't be too bad. Maybe he just assumes, it'd be too much. But when I was in China, probably one of my favorite dishes was brains, boiled in a spicy sauce, or spicy like liquid. Another favorite was really fatty lamb kidneys, barbecued in the north of China in Inner Mongolia. Really, really delicious, really savory, so good. So yeah, joy of cooking. It's a fun fact. It's very, very popular cookbook through like 11 editions already. Still very popular. Fun fact, so organ meats used to be called, or are called offal, and it comes from off-fall. So when the butcher would slice open the animal and the organs would come out, it would be the off-fall. And so offal, they just shortened it to offal. Organ meats are rich in fat-soluble vitamins. A lot of the vitamin A, the vitamin D, they're stored in the organs. A lot of really great things are stored in the organs. Liver has tons of amazing things, antioxidants, and all kinds of things to neutralize toxins. Not to store toxins, to neutralize toxins. And yeah, sometimes there'll be a little bit of gross stuff there that you can disarm. And so there's a recipe in here for liver and onions, or liver and mushrooms. And it's really, if you make it right, it's really good.
Yeah.
And
do that.
and I even have better ways for you too, to start besides that, to start to acquire a taste maybe. But with this one, you soak it in lemon juice first, and that can help disarm, deactivate any bad stuff, including like pathogens. Like the acid can kind of cook the pathogens with acid. So organ meats don't store as well as muscle meat, so it's harder to get them fresh and better tasting. So it's more important that it's fresh, or freshly frozen and freshly thawed. Let's see. Yeah, so fat-soluble vitamins stored in fat reserves too. So fat reserves and organs store a lot of these great nutrients. So back in the day, when winter would be coming, that'd be right after fall. Fall would harvest, kill a lot of the animals, and they'd kind of gorge on the organ meats. Like that's when the organ meats were good to go. And then we store it in our fat reserves, and then that would get us through the winter in decent shape until next time we could have animals' organ meats and all of that. Feel free to join if you'd like to, in case you're into it. Yeah. Let's see.
And I was gonna say it's interesting because people, like most people, are low in vitamin D.
Yeah.
That's a huge
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
and it's probably, and we don't eat this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a great way to get some of it. Organ meats, but it's so important. There are some decent like vitamin 3 like liquid things that I've noticed, like especially like the winter blues or just lack of vitamin D blues. That usually helps me a ton, but still no match for the real source, the real thing, real food. All right, we're plugging right along. Here's a cool little thing. This is in Deep Nutrition as well, but it's kind of like a breakdown of like forget if it's average. vitamin content of an apple, liver, and broccoli. And if you take a real close look at this, besides vitamin A, which we'll talk about, almost everything else, apple, broccoli, totally pale in comparison to liver. Like liver just blows it out of the water on almost everything. There's a few things that are closer.
So good for you.
It's so good for you.
Trying to eat it.
Yes.
I'm going to.
We're gonna get you there. Don't you worry. And then, but vitamin A. So there's a little asterisk right here, here and here. So these don't actually have vitamin A. They have a vitamin A precursor, which I think is retinoid, something like that. And I want to say, at best, your body can convert about a fourth of that into vitamin A. And that's if you've got other nutrients and things to convert it. So this isn't like a real figure. This has actual vitamin A ready to go, ready to help you out.
Easily accessible.
Yeah. Vitamin A, that's making me think of the pigs from last time,
Oh, yeah.
piglets. Did,
No eyeballs.
what, yeah. Did you tell her about that?
She read it.
Read it.
Oh, okay.
I
From
feel so bad for these poor animals.
yeah. But if it makes you feel any better, the next generation after we got their eyeballs
Right,
back.
yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
All right. So that was in Deep Nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Was that in the front?
Yeah,
for-
because I'm just at the beginning. I'm
Really?
on like page 40.
Can I see?
And I read
I'm
that.
just curious about which edition, and I don't remember that being up front.
Yeah.
But this is where I.
She's talking about like all the epigenetics stuff, and that's where it came in.
Okay. So yeah, you're not the beginning. You're a little ways in. You're doing good.
Okay.
You're doing great. Yeah. It's a big read. It's a lot, but it's wonderful. It's very well written too.
Yeah, easy
Very
to
well.
understand.
Yeah. The first edition had like the last fourth of it was so term heavy and slow and scientific and not well written and not easy to understand. And I had to have like my phone and I'm like, Siri, what does blah blah mean? But I think that was before Siri, so I had to like type it in and then like look up, and it was rough. So let's see. So that's per 100 grams of those things. Liver is a savings bank. The real vitamin supplement is liver. Most amazing meat. I forget what these quotes are from, but these quotes are from somewhere good. It's probably from Deep Nutrition. Pate. Just so I don't forget, pate is an excellent way to get liver in your diet. I haven't found where to get it around here. I'm pretty sure you can get it online. I'm quite certain.
I've
So
seen that too. Yeah, and I've tried to pick it up.
okay. I would think so. I checked one or two different natural grocers, and I checked Good Earth. Couldn't find it there. I would bet Whole Foods has it. They're
I'm
doing.
almost positive they had it, because I remember I was looking for one time, and I was like, oh, it has stuff in it that I'm not eating, but okay,
Yeah.
they have something.
Cool. Do you remember what kinds they had? Was it pig liver? Was it cow liver? Was it fish liver?
I'm pretty sure it was cow.
Okay.
And I think they had one other one that was something that I was not familiar with.
Okay.
Like unusual animal. I was
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
oh.
We eat that.
And pate normally is a paste made out of mostly liver, but not always. So read the ingredients. It could be a vegetarian pate. Pate basically means paste, but normally it's like a liver paste. So also, what I sometimes see from time to time in like natural food stores, or especially outside the country, or foreign foods markets, is foie gras, if I can pronounce it, foie gras. And so that is, of course, duck liver. But that's a bit more straight, but usually seasoned really well. So it can be really tasty, quite similar. But pate will usually have like some fat mixed in or olive oil mixed in, and it'll take the edge off. And the way it's cooked and prepared and seasoned, it really, really takes the edge off. And then spread that on sourdough toast, spread it on crackers, try to make sure they don't have vegetable oils in them, so olive oil crackers or no oils or whatever. Give that a shot.
Yeah.
What else while I'm on the topic? So pate is a great way. Meats that have the liver ground into it. So
Yeah, I like that idea.
yeah, so
I
the
could probably do that.
I think natural grocers have both bison. Oh, I think I saw bison, beef, and chicken now. Chicken I think I saw the natural grocers in Bountiful.
Okay, and that's what I got. I got chicken liver. I actually found it at Smith's. I need to go back and look at it.
Cool. But this is the chicken meat and heart and liver ground together. And it's like ancient harvest.
I need to look for that one.
It's in the freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the one that they have. I think there's only one thing they grind that together. So ancient some. It's really cool product. Standard process. A lot of these will have liver ground into them.
Where do you get that? I've not heard of standard process.
It is tougher to get. You won't find this in any stores as far as I know. You'll only find it at like functional medicine places or especially chiropractors. Chiropractors will have.
I might get it on Full Script or Cassie might on. Have you heard of Full Script? You
No.
can have, if you're a healthcare practitioner, you can have access to Full Script, and then you can recommend supplements. And I know they do have standard process. I don't know that they have these specific ones, but I'll look it up.
Does that mean you can give other people access to buy, or they buy
Yes.
through you?
No, I
get
can
them?
give other people. I can set it up that way, but I don't. I just give other people access, and they can buy what they want.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'll look into that and see if I can get those.
And it's possible that you can maybe get them on Amazon now. I think for a long time, kind of the point was to not let people get them directly, so that chiropractors can, like, that's a big thing for natural health, people. When I was in China, I did buy it on their Amazon, which is called Taobao, and so that was nice. It was marked up real high. It was rough to get it over there, but you could get it, which was nice. All right. And so doing organ meats and nasty bits in adults, it helps with disease resistance, especially, and lots of things. And children, an awakening of their genetic potential. It can get them young, and it can really, really benefit them and to grow into a stronger little human.
So would you say for the supplement form of liver? So I know, like, when we talk about supplements in my nutrition practice, they taught us of synergy. When you eat it with. Is this going to be the same way? Like, there's other stuff that you're going to be getting with it that's going to help.
Yes. So these are food-based, like they're nutrients from food that are not too separated out. They're not too refined. They're not too broken down. They're not as good as actual food, but they're much better than most supplements. And if you look at them, like, they've got like spots and things. Take a quick look at that. Yeah. You want imperfection in your food. You don't want all the eggs the perfect size and shape and bleached white and everything. You don't want all the tomatoes like perfectly round and hard and all those things they do to tomatoes.
Shipping for a long time.
Yeah, like able to transit for forever. You want like crazy weird tomatoes that were picked after they were ripe and aren't perfect. So whole food based forms are gonna be best, and then taking it with food is best. A lot of these things, they don't do nearly as much good for you if they don't have the synergy of other nutrients working with them. And probiotics. In here it'll tell you do your best to get 2 to 3 at least pillars of world cuisine in each meal. So you get a salad and you've got fresh raw, right? You throw some sauerkraut on what you're eating. You've got fermented, and then maybe you cooked up, a steak and some potatoes or whatever. Like, so there's 2 to 3, and you can get all 4, cool, every now and then. But the synergy, and along those lines, so bone broth has a lot of really great things to digest meat. It's another reason why we digest meat slower. We overcook it. We don't have the broth to help with digestion. We think salt's bad, and table salt isn't great, but if you have like Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, those nutrients are so important for digestion. Metabolism, the breaking down and building up of molecules needs so many different things for all their reactions. Like, it's such a complex, crazy thing that it can do on its own if you get enough of the right stuff and avoid seed oils and too much sugar and all that crap.
So you're saying when you have the broth, you should have it with meat, or are you saying meat should have the broth with it?
So it's fine to have this on its own, and like if I go climbing, a lot of times I'll throw this on the dash. I'll get done climbing, it'll be like a recovery for my joints, like a recovery drink. You can have it on its own. When you have meat, it is best to also have broth. You don't always have to, but it's great. Let me show you a quick slide. I love this slide.
Synergy with meats. I mean, it makes sense. We talk about it all the time with plant foods. Why not?
Right. Still nutrients.
I was wondering because I was considering making my own liver pills. Like if I just put these in a capsule, but then it's not going to be as.
But if you take that as the same time as your meal, it's not so bad.
Okay.
So it's more just like you don't want it fully alone. You don't want to wait 2 hours, take this, wait another 2 hours, and then have your meal. Like you want to have it maybe right before you start eating, so it can start to dissolve, or mid-meal. And even if you forget and do it afterwards, better than nothing. And it'll be digesting and going through for a while. So you've got a fairly big span of before to after that you can fit it in for best results. If you don't, it's not going to really super hurt you like aspirin will, because it's not super potent chemical nastiness. All right, so this sort of thing is a very common sight in China. This is like how they eat. So they got their little bowl of rice, and
Is that for each person?
that's for each person. Each person's got their bowl of rice, and they hold it most of that. So they hold it, and they've got their chopsticks, and they pick from the table. They usually have a lazy Susan. They can not usually. A lot of times they have lazy Susan. They can rotate the dishes around. They're all sharing together. Sometimes you have a saucer, but it's not for getting your own food on it. It's for spitting out all the garbage. It's for the bones, tons of bones from the fish and the different things. And they usually with their meat, they chop it up on the bone. So you put it in your mouth, you eat around the bone, you spit out the bone. You suck the marrow out first. You chew on it, see if you can eat it. If you can't, you spit it on the plate. They'll have clams and oysters, and they'll put the shells there. So anyway, and they eat family style, so they're all sharing it. And the more people are eating, they think it's the more healthy, because the more dishes you can have, the bigger variety of nutrients, the more synergy of the nutrients. And they'll have a few kind of like soft rules, like every meal should have at least one soup. And the soup almost always had bone, like meat on bone cooking. So you've got broth. You've got broth with the meat that you're eating. You've got fermented vegetables there. They call it Pate. They got fermented vegetables, fermented condiments, fermented black bean paste, like all helping break down the food.
So is this what your dinner looks like at night?
This is often what dinner looks like. Yeah, this is when my climber friends and we go out for a recovery meal after climbing. We go to a restaurant and we get a big old table sitting together. We get a whole bunch of dishes and we just share them all. And when you spread it out, like it's so much cheaper and just a huge variety of nutrients.
That's interesting. I went to Malaysia and this is how they ate. I didn't really think about it. I was like, I guess that's what they do here. But that's exactly what we did.
It's very Asian, Southeast Asian, Japan would be similar. And even places like Portugal, where it would be a lot more normal to have like your own plate. Sometimes they'll order like their own little thing and they only eat their thing, but oftentimes there'll be a big old tray of like all the parts of the animal. Like they'll cook like the pig blood, and they'll have like, they'll have liver, kidney, they'll have the meat, and then maybe you scoop your portion onto your plate rather than sharing the whole time. But still, they're ordering a big variety and sharing the variety. So, yeah, I like it.
I guess you also get extra bacteria from other people because you're like eating out of the bowl, so it's like you're sharing my bacteria, I'm giving you some.
I normally wouldn't bring that up because a lot of people can't handle that, but yeah, I saw a really great video recently, and they were talking about how we're over-sterilizing, we're over-cleaning, we're over-washing. Our bodies need bacteria so that we can keep up our defenses, we can learn from the bacteria, like we're not meant to have everything sterilized. Like, how could we have done that before? Like, it's just...
Yeah, we didn't do it.
We didn't do it before. There was no way to do it before.
Humanity kept going.
Somehow. Who knows? Yeah, it drives me crazy. So let's see here. Where are we at now? So... Oh, right. So, fresh and raw, we'll go briefly into it. We kind of talked about it a little bit already. This part I didn't make the video for yet. Okay. So a big part of it's antioxidants. The more you eat cooked things, cooked meat, which which largely kills the antioxidants if you really cook things quite a bit. The more you need antioxidants to help with, say your food had a lot of sugar in it. Maybe it's natural sugar from fruit. Still, there's going to be glycation. Still, there's going to be the chemical bonding of molecules in your body, and your body needs antioxidants to help break apart those bonds, to give out electrons and make everybody happy, so they can release those bonds and not become permanent, not become too rigid and hard. So having lots of fresh foods. The potency can't fully be bottled, so you can't fully rely on supplements. It talks about fresh dairy, raw milk, pasteurization. Are you guys pretty familiar with raw milk? Should we go into the details?
A little. I'm not like super.
So briefly, milk. Most of the milk you find in stores is pasteurized, so it's cooked, it's denatured. The proteins are kind of shrivel up and are harder to digest. Homogenized, so they explode the fat molecules. They're not in their natural form, and it's somehow mixed in perfectly with the rest of the milk, which is totally not natural. Should separate and be on top for the cream.
When I was a kid, we had raw milk actually from my uncle, and that was it. Like these gallon jars, and there's the cream on the top.
Exactly. Really, really good, right?
So good.
Let's see what else here. I just remember this is recording, so I gotta have it near my mouth. So there's naturally occurring enzymes in raw milk, lactase, which helps break down lactose, which is the milk sugar, and so you're getting more and more people with lactose intolerance because they're not getting the help from the milk to break down the milk sugar. So it's taking more and more of our own enzymes, which we don't have an unlimited supply of, and we don't need as many fermented foods that are still probiotic. We'll ferment certain things and then cook them, or kill the fermentation some other way. Like wine, if it was still actively fermenting, it would probably explode. Well, that might not be true of all wine, but anyway, you get my point. We don't have as much probiotics in our diet, so we can't digest as well, and it's easier for us to get celiac disease too, not just because the bread's not made right, but we don't have probiotics to help break it down. We're not replacing our enzymes. So raw foods to have more enzymes. It's okay to cook sometimes, but balance it out. Otherwise, way too much of a strain on our own supply of enzymes.
And is it 2 pillars in a meal? Is that what you said earlier?
She said like don't stress yourself out that you got to get all 4 all the time. Mix up, get 2 to 3, and if you're always getting the same 2 or 3, make it a point to get that 4th one sometimes. Variety of everything, of the strategies, of the foods, of the parts of the animal, everything. Obviously, quality of food is important. If there isn't adequate nutrition in the soil, the nutrition content of the vegetables and fruits aren't quite going to be there. If you're not feeding your animals the right things, then they're not going to be as nutritionally successful as otherwise. Okay, so great. That was 1 hour. We have about a half hour to talk about what are we actually going to do? How are we going to do it? So, first of all, questions. What's on your mind?
Probably the
Sourcing.
Yeah, where do I go to get stuff?
I'm so glad you said that. So I have a couple really great.
Is this what you're going to talk about tomorrow as well? I'm not going to be able to go either.
Okay.
Is that what you were going to talk about?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the places that you would have gone tomorrow if you could go tomorrow, and some things we may have not gone to. Yeah, so feel free. I'm going to make this bigger. Feel free to take a photo of that. So local resources. The other local resources was the Weston Price Foundation one. Members of that who have farms and stuff, so you can call their numbers, you can go to their location, it has their addresses and all of that. This is like stores nearby that you can get good products from. Yeah, which both are really important because you can't always go to everyone's farm. You gotta schedule a time. This is more convenient. You can go there and get your thing. All right, so we'll talk about it briefly. So single serve bone broth, big fan of that. You can get that at Natural Grocers. I don't know that every Natural Grocers has it. The one in the Bountiful had one little slot for it. I think the one here in Ogden also had like one slot here nearby. Raw milk, you can go to Good Earth on Fridays from 12 to 5. They have a raw milk truck that parks. That's Redmond Heritage Farm Store truck.
Okay.
And I have a keyword. It's expensive. So it's non-GMO, non-soy, non-corn. It's all like grass-fed, good stuff. Really delicious. It's like a little over $11, I think.
For a gallon. Okay.
It's rough, but man, it's a good.
But I mean, like right now you're paying $5, $6 for a half gallon, so you know.
Totally, yeah. And for what you're getting out of it, it's amazing. Like, would you rather pay $6 for a half gallon and get amazing nutrition without all those toxins and nasty stuff and exploding the fat molecules and lacking of lactase and what was the other thing? Denatured proteins, or would you rather get liquid crap for $2? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
I remember last time you said something about like that it could not sour. What's the word? It like goes bad.
Yeah.
And I remember I've been using organic milk for a while, and I remember one time I always smell it.
Yeah.
And then I poured it, and it didn't smell, and I literally ate it, and I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And that's when I learned like
it goes rancid.
It
goes
that's the
rancid.
word.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And that's when I was like, I'm not drinking that milk anymore.
Yeah.
I always get the one with the like cream on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the main reason that happens is the lack of lactase. There's no enzyme. It can't transform. It doesn't have that enzymatic transformation.
Yeah.
It's a form of fermentation. And it sours because it's getting lactic acid, which is fine and great and to have. And some people believe it to be more healthy for you because it's less sugar and more lactic acid. It's great.
And you said that was Fridays from what time?
12 to 5.
12 to 5. That's cool.
And then I have a code word and a number to text that code word to, so you can get updated on when they arrive and if they have to skip a week, so you don't go there just for that and then not get it. So the number is 844665 0819, and the code word is Friday Milk, all one word. So if you text Friday Milk to that number, it'll update you on when the milk's come, when it's arrived, if they're gonna be skipping, so you don't go there. And then if you go to Redmond Heritage Farm's website, if you search that on Google and go to their website, they'll have like a raw milk page, and they'll show you all of their pickup points and all of the code words to send in if you want updates on those pickup points. You can also go to their actual store location, which they have 3 of. One is Salt Lake, right around 20th South. You can just type it in, Google Maps, and find Redmond Heritage Food Store. They also have one in, I believe, Orem or nearby, and they have one in Heber, up there in the boonies.
Was it Redmond?
Redmond, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Redmond. All right, but if you're making a special trip just for the raw milk, call ahead of time because they do sometimes run out.
Okay.
So, and that happened to me the other day. But I went for the deli. Oh, they have like a cafe there, and they do grass-fed beef, burgers. They do. This is the best part. Is they have French fries fried in coconut oil. French fries I often nickname seed oil sponges. And they're just like one of the worst things you can do to yourself. But if you find it cooked in decent stuff, or cook it yourself in butter or duck fat or lard or coconut oil, it can be great. The other place I go for fries sometimes when I really, really need them is Five Guys Burgers and Fries.
Yeah.
They cook them in peanut oil, probably refined peanut oil, so it's on that list. Oh, let me get you this too. Let me go to the slide of the good fats and bad fats. It's probably refined peanut oil, and so it's not great to have real often, but it's not nearly as bad, in my opinion, as canola, soy. All right, so if you haven't seen this and if you don't have this, this is really great to snag a picture of. And so the brief synopsis of this is nature doesn't make bad fats. Nature makes good fats and oils. Humans make bad fats. So these have been around a long time. These are excellent. With these ones, be caution with heat because it's either monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. Sorry, these are all polyunsaturated. So they're very easy to be oxidized. They're very fragile. Limited use, refined peanut oil, refined avocado, refined coconut oil. You want the better made, expeller pressed, organic, not too filtered, all that kind of stuff. You want to avoid restaurant French fries and fried foods. You want to avoid canola oil, soy, sunflower, all of that, unless it's very, very, very delicately processed and refrigerated and taken good care of.
Interesting because my brother-in-law is into oat milk, and so we went to the grocery store, and my husband's like, "Oh, let's try this oat milk," and I picked it up and I looked at it, and I was like, "Nope."
You're like, "No."
He's like, "What?" And he's like, "I was like, did you see the oils that it has in it?" But it was after you had said something about certain oils, and I was like, I didn't even think about some of them.
That's crazy that they would add bad oils into that. I believe that they would, but it's just crazy. I haven't. Exactly.
Well, otherwise, it says oat milk's not going to have any fat in it, so it's not going to have that savoriness that people associate with milk.
Right, from the cream.
Yeah.
So they're replacing the cream with seed oils.
Yeah, exactly. It was really interesting.
Those jerks.
Almonds have some, but it's not substantial. Can I see your that book?
This one?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Enter if you dare. It's really fun, but also scary and overwhelming. I'm soon going to be offering services where I'll come and help people kind of clean out their kitchen. Look at the labels. If they have seed oil stuff, get rid of it. Take them out and replace it with good stuff. Maybe if they're ambitious, plan a time that we'll even make it at home so they don't have to keep buying an expensive thing at the health food store. And part of it will be how to tackle this, how to systematically, first let's get you good condiments.
Make a mini version?
Yeah, kind of like this, but leading you through the recipes, which this doesn't do a whole lot of. This just tells you what generally to do. Yeah, that needs its own separate little book to lead you through, in my opinion. All right, let me see if I can find this real quick, and if I can't, we'll move on. But I saw a breakdown of fake milk comparisons of how they're a total ripoff for your money.
Oh, yeah.
And they're typically full of sugar, even if they don't say sugar, if they don't say added sugar, there's naturally occurring sugar that's refined and more potent in the rice milk, a lot of times in the almond milk. The soy has so many anti-nutrients that just destroy you. Soy should always be fermented, whether it's soy milk, whether it's tofu, it should be fermented, and always was traditionally. Nowadays we do shortcut tofu, we do shortcut soy milk, and it's just like the shortcut sauerkraut. It's still got its anti-nutrients that destroy you and throw off your hormones and make boys act like girls and girls act like boys. And
We don't like to spend time cooking. It's interesting.
we don't.
It's supposed to be this quick.
We've lost our ways.
Full burrito.
Nope.
I always said awful. I guess it's awful.
I think it's awful. I hate calling it that because it sounds like you're calling it bad. Yeah. All right. So here is another cool thing. So for those who don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen, don't always have time to spend time in the kitchen, and want really nutrient-packed foods and really cover all their bases, here are a bunch of really great, easy things that you can do to get a lot of great nutrition. You can take a picture of this if you like, real quick. So, raw beef liver. It is not the most savory of things, but one thing you can do is blend it with other things. You can blend it with pineapple juice to sweeten it and to take over some of the juice. You can look up raw liver smoothie or raw liver drink, and it'll have different ideas for things that you can blend into it to cover up the taste.
That's what I need to do.
It's a very strong taste.
It's texture for me too. I'm a texture person.
Oh.
Kind of picky.
Chicken liver pate.
Yeah.
In here, in Nourishing Traditions, chicken liver pate. It is delicious. It's unbelievably good. Spread it on crackers, spread it on toast. It's hard to believe how good it is. Like, it's so good. It is not that normal. If you just cook liver regular, especially if it's a bit old, and especially if you haven't soaked it in acid to like tenderize it, and especially if you don't have that excellent fermented ketchup to go with it, that it makes it extra good, then yeah, the chicken liver pate. That does take a bit more time in the kitchen, but I just thought of that. That's another way for you to go. Yeah, chicken livers don't have nearly as rough of a taste usually as like cow liver and stuff. All right, oysters. You can go to a fishmonger, fish shop. You can go to, fancy restaurants. You can go to Fred Meyer's and buy them for like $1. And they even have this crazy new technology where they're pre-opened but still alive. And even the guy who was selling it, he's like, I don't know how it's possible. I don't know how they do it, but they did it. Wow. It has like a bandage, a shrink wrap around it. But you can just break the shrink wrap, open it, and it's alive. It was fresh. It was smelled good. Smelled like the ocean. Like ate it. We did. Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem. You're welcome to be up here if you want. You're welcome to be up here if you want. We'll just be talking all loud. Yeah. No problem. It's probably getting, it's pretty crowded. Feel free.
Thank you so much.
No problem. We are /woo. So, thanks, sister. All right, so where was that? I was talking. Oh, oysters. Oysters. So what I used to do, and what I just have begun to do again, is I have a shucker in my car, and I need to get. Oh, and I have tissues so I can like tissue up my hand so I don't like stab my hand. I have a shucker in my car, so if I have just raw oysters that aren't pre-opened through that new crazy fancy technology, I'll just shuck it. So you can buy it fresh. I don't have to like wait to get home. I don't have to keep it on ice till I get home. I just do it in my car. Shuck it. If I happen to have some lemon juice or hot sauce, I'll throw that on, and you just down it. Oyster shots, and you can buy a couple extra and say, hey, who's up for an oyster shot? You don't have to do it alone. And but if you don't have a shucker or it's a little dangerous, go to Fred Meyer. I don't know if it's all Fred Meyer, but the one nearby, down south a little ways, you just break the shrink wrap, pop it open, down it. It's a really great thing. I chew it a little because I don't like the idea of it still being like alive after. So I like chew it a little, swallow it, just real quick. I won't take my time. Most things I liquefy. I just throw it in. Or you can even actually what I used to do was I'd kind of like give it a few slices with the shucker, and then I just down it. Because it's not the best texture to want to keep in your mouth for very long. All right, raw milk. Even better is fermenting it into kefir. If you have kefir grains. And for a long time, pretty much every time I had raw milk, I'd ferment it first. And it's even better that way, but you don't have to. It's just more sugar if you don't. We've got lactase to help you out. Raw cream, sometimes they sell that separate. I think Redmond's typically has it separate. Steak tartare we went over with the organ meats. And that's at Natural Grocers. Did we talk to all of the other resources? We did not. Let's finish. We're on a good roll with this. There it is. Pate and crackers, great way to get some liver in. Sardines, so canned sardines. You gotta be really careful. A lot of times they're packed in vegetable oils. You don't want that. You want them packed in olive oil, or maybe packed in water. They can be packed. Sometimes they're packed in like mustard You could do that like a spicy mustard. So it can be packed in like a hot sauce. Main thing is just make sure it doesn't have vegetable oils or seed oils. What else? Oysters also packed like sardines. You can do as well. That's a great easy thing. You just pop it open, throw it on some crackers, ready to go. You can throw some cheese with it. If you have some fresh basil or herbs, you can do that too. Great antioxidants there. Tuna sashimi, tuna melt on sourdough. I was at Winco, and they had frozen tuna and poke, and what else did they have? Maybe it was salmon, and it was frozen. I have a pretty strong gut at this point. I would probably do it from Winco. I'd probably try to find the person who was over that, and I'd ask, hey, can you tell me if this is sushi grade or if it's equivalent to sushi grade? Just to be extra safe. But a lot of places like Fred Meyer will have frozen tuna that's sushi grade that you can just thaw, cut up into little pieces, throw it on your sourdough with some fermented spicy mustard or whatever you have, and eat it raw, just like sushi. Pretty quick and easy, no cooking needed. You can warm it up if you like. Five Guys Burgers and Fries, again for those peanut oil fries. And I feel like they do a pretty good job, I think, with their sourcing and their ingredients somewhat. Probably nowhere near Redmond's in their deli. Like, they do a really good job. It's really delicious. And it's not as expensive as you might imagine in a health food store. Eating out these days has gotten so expensive. I would say it's not that much more expensive, sometimes less expensive than eating out at a restaurant. And way higher quality, yeah. Yeah, like for what it is, it's surprising the price that you can get it for there, to me. Bone broth, single serve, we went over. Or making a soup out of, maybe getting a big one, making a soup out of. That's a lot quicker than simmering your own bones. If you can simmer your own bones, awesome. If not, that's okay. Raw egg yolks. I like to do a raw egg yolk smoothie, or raw milk raw egg yolk smoothie. I'll throw some sweetener in there. You want to separate it from the yolks, cook the yolks, save them for breakfast the next day or whatever. If you can ferment it in a kefir first, great. Otherwise, just do raw milk and raw egg yolks. Fresh fruits. I love what she says in here that people talk about fruits and vegetables as if they're equivalent. Like, eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Not the same. Most fruits are way too sweet. It's way too much sugar. You can do them now and then. You should do them after a meal like dessert usually. You should do them, a lot of times with a good fat. So like peaches and cream, cookies and milk. Like when you have sugar, you should be having good quality milk or fat, especially something high in calcium and magnesium like milk, to offset the sugar, which will throw off the calcium and magnesium in your blood. And you need that good ratio. I think it's like 10 calcium to 1 magnesium. And if you don't have that really good ratio and enough of it, then you're going to pull from your bones, you're going to pull from your teeth, you're going to get cavities more often. A lot of people have the assumption that cavities are like about 100% just not brushing enough or not flossing enough. A huge part of it is blood chemistry. Cavities happen mostly from the inside, from pulling from your reserves. Yeah. Let's see here. Annie's soup. And at Winco, it's a lot cheaper a lot of times. But they have some really good soups. A lot of them are organic. They have like lentil soup and all different kinds of soups. Those are quick. You just pop the top, throw it in. Sometimes I just have it room temperature. Sometimes I'll warm it up. So it can be really quick. Ice cream. So if you want quality ice cream on a bit of a budget, some Wincos have a Noosa brand, that yogurt brand that's so delicious. And I checked their ingredients. It's mostly cream. I think they do egg yolks, and they don't have a lot of the nastiness you normally get. So that's a pretty good option. If you're okay to spend some serious cash for some really good ice cream, Good Earth has something that's just out of this world. It's called Van Leeuwen. It's a very simple, just like monochromatic, like one color. They only have 3 different flavors. and it is just pure goodness. It's just cow cream, and it's French ice cream, which means it has double the amount of egg yolks that ought to be in ice cream, and it's so good.
That's another thing we always had growing up, because we had the raw milk, and my dad would make
Make it at home.
ice cream, and I've never really liked ice cream since we stopped doing
Yeah,
it.
because
It's so different.
most of what you get is crap. Most of what you get is awful.
It is.
Yeah. They replace the cream with seed oils, or they don't put much cream, very low fat content, which isn't great. Yeah. Van Leeuwen, if you want your mind blown, if you want to ruin like all ice cream, like eat that. Like,
There's one at Natural Grocers that I get. It's in a blue jar. And it's really basic. It's really good.
yeah. Be careful for those non-dairy ice creams. A lot of them are total garbage. Really great. Gross. Epic Bone Broth is a more expensive.
Like the frozen one?
I think maybe sometimes they do it frozen. The one I'm thinking of is just in a jar, just shelf stable. And Winco has it in a reusable, nice jar for $6.42. That's still pretty expensive, and it's like not a massive one. So if you want really high quality and you're okay to spend a bit more, you can get that. I don't normally get that. Like I normally get this. And this is one of the recommended brands in here. So it's good enough for her. It's good enough for me when I don't have time to make it myself, and when I'm, not fully loaded with money. This is something I just found, I think yesterday or the day before. Braunschweiger, and it's mostly pig liver and pig fat, and I still haven't tried it. When I run out of the meat that I have, I'm gonna get that and just see how it is. It's at Winco, and it doesn't say it's organic. I don't know if it's antibiotic free and all that. I'll still probably just try it just out of curiosity, and every now and then low quality isn't gonna kill you. But it might be surprisingly good. Winco sometimes has some really good stuff. I've seen them carry bubbies. I've seen them carry some good stuff. There's that. Yeah, it was tuna, cod, poke, frozen at Winco for a surprisingly low price. It may not be sushi grade, but sometimes they just don't pay extra to get it graded. I would eat it, probably. So, especially if it was wild caught, which it might have been. I can't quite remember. All right, let's go back to that one that we didn't quite finish up. Local resources.
Is this what you're going to go over tomorrow?
This is a lot of what I'm going to go over tomorrow, yeah. So we went over raw milk. Raw honey, there is a lady, not a guy, maybe sometimes a guy, but a lady at the farmer's market who has like unfiltered, which you don't want unfiltered for everything because it's got a lot of wax and that doesn't always bake into stuff well. And she'll tell you all of that. She'll be like, for some things you want unfiltered, for some things you want filtered, and really, really, really good honey there. Let's see. Also, Good Earth has it like on tap or whatever you'd call it. Also really delicious. It's local, it's raw, good stuff. They have reusable containers that you can get there to put that in. They also have kombucha on tap there, which I think you can't use reusable containers for that, which is a bummer. I think you have to. I could be wrong.
I haven't refilled there. I've just purchased once.
Yeah.
My
So
husband has recently learned to make that. He's making it for me.
Oh, nice.
A
cool.
long time. Yeah. He's
Awesome.
my fermenter.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Super
nice.
cool.
He just does it all for me.
He
Wonderful.
likes the chemistry.
He does.
He's a keeper.
Yeah.
A lot of fermented things you buy in the store, they have deadened the probiotics so that they're not super vivacious and there isn't a whole lot of them, so that it doesn't keep fermenting too much and explode out of the packaging. So anything that you can ferment at home, typically it's much better to do that. And same with everything, like packaging, processing, making it shelf stable, like it's almost never nearly as good as making it yourself at home. So excellent. Homemade kombucha, I love it. It's so good. So good. I might need to get a SCOBY from you sometime.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Right on. Ground bison with heart and liver, Natural Grocers. Ground beef, the guy at the farmer's market. So that was Maddox Farms. Did I go to the wrong place? How'd that happen? Maddox Farms. And they also have, like we talked about, raw liver. They have ground heart. They have all kinds of stuff. They have really good bacon. They have I think they call it grass-fed pig, and they have all kinds of pig's products and lots of stuff. And if you talk to them and you ask them, can I get this or that? Probably they can, especially if you're willing to buy a whole or half animal. But even if you don't, I think a lot of things you can still do it. You can still technically buy a share of that animal, and the FDA doesn't have to say no selling brains, and then maybe he can do it legally at that point. I know at least for a long time selling brains was illegal, but I've bought and eaten them at the Chinatown in Salt Lake. So either things have changed, or maybe in a restaurant it's okay, rather than like a butcher. I don't know. Ask around. I haven't been around in a while, so I'm still asking, like, what are the current laws? What can we get away with? What are you willing to do? So, yeah. but it was in Chinatown. So it was in Salt Lake. So anyway, and also, kidney, liver on a stick, like skewers, good stuff. Also, natural grocers and Good Earth are good options for the raw ground beef. Microgreens is sold for a decent price. Someone at the farmer's market, forget their name. Bread. There's a bakery by the front climbing gym, and it's called, it's on 20th, or near 20th, south. Some kind of play on words of like great grains, or what's that called? If you're really interested in that, I can let you know. But it's like a little restaurant that has a whole bunch of fresh made bread for a pretty good price. If you want to get spendy and you want to get real good sourdough, you can also get it at the farmer's market or natural grocers. Some of it's really expensive. They have some like local stuff. They bring in a big old thing of sourdough. It's like $10. If you make it at home, it's much better. Natural grocers. All right, grass-fed butter and other good lipids. Natural grocers, Good Earth. Kitchen supplies and raw ingredients. This is a really cool one. Kitchen Needs.
Oh yeah, I know about Kitchen Needs.
Yeah, they have mason jars. I think they have grinders. They have juicers. They have dehydrators. They have raw seeds of like all kinds in the fridge. And then raw seeds should be kept refrigerated for you to soak and sprout, or soak in a brine and dehydrate yourself. And crispy nuts, which is in here in Nourishing Traditions. They have bulk ingredients. They can order stuff in for you. They have a delicious little counter of like chocolates and brownies that they make there. They have I think they call it a public kitchen, and I don't know all the details to it. I don't know who can come and do what with it. I think you can teach your own classes there if they allow you to. I'm in the process. They're supposed to call me. They never did. And they also have cooking classes there. So if you don't know how to make sourdough bread, they make that there. I don't remember all their classes, but they have some good classes there. So Kitchen Needs is a cool place.
You look like you're so enamored. You're like,
they can probably get you any kitchen tool you want. So if they don't have like a oat roller or grinder, they can probably order one in.
Are they still on like 30th or somewhere? Are they still in Ogden here?
Yeah, they're real nearby here.
Kind of a weird place.
Kind of a weird place, kind of not
I've been there
near.
before. I used to go there.
Let me tell you
All the time.
real quick. Kitchen Needs 30th. They're on 30th and Grant. Oh, Patterson. I think Patterson is 30th South. Jefferson.
Yeah. Okay, that's where I remember it being. Okay.
I guess Patterson and Jefferson's the same street, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, about 30th South. They are a cool place. Oh, stock pots, like big old stock pots to make your own broth. You can get it there. Did either of you ask about starting a personal garden? Are either of you overly interested in that?
I do that.
Yeah.
My husband's like a gardener. He does that
Cool.
too. He does the sprouting, the gardening. He does
What a
all that.
good guy.
I know, it's really nice. I tell people to eat it and he makes it. It works out really nice.
Cool. Do you guys sell to
No.
people?
I tell him he should. He loves that. I mean, we do the worms. He does the worms to make soil. Yeah,
No
he
kidding.
does
The
that.
composting, yeah.
Yeah, and the dirt is just beautiful. I love it. Like, yeah, he does all that.
Super cool. Can I would love to find some way to work together, and I really want to sell a lot of these things at the farmer's market. Maybe we could partner together. If you guys don't want to like run a stall, maybe you guys make it, I run the stall, like, yeah. Yeah, don't say your number out loud because I'm going to be posting this video online and everyone will know your number. So if you want to just go ahead and put your information in there. What else? Okay, kitchen needs. Ice cream we talked about. Good Earth and Winco. But basically you want hopefully the first ingredient probably to be cream or milk. You usually want egg yolks, especially if it's a quality product. And you don't want soy oil, you don't want any seed oils, you don't want way too many of just the weird added strange stabilizers and preservatives and all that kind of stuff.
I put husband gardener so you'll know who
Awesome.
I am.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I'll text you. So I put Jesse, forgotten nutrition. That would be awesome. I'd love that. Okay, fermented sauerkraut and pickles. Natural grocers, Good Earth, possibly Winco. Some Wincos have it. And making it yourself for a lot of those is a better way to go. Cool. What else? What else? There's a recipe for steak tartare in here. There's probably one in there. Can't remember. You can look up online. This has a few like recommended food lists for if you're really struggling.
This table's sticky, so if your books are sticky.
Oh yeah, I should have switched that out. My bad.
I'm like, why are we sticky?
Oh shoot. I'll get that wiped off. Okay, so like balanced tooth decay remineralizing program. So food intake suggestions. So you can glance over that if you find it really interesting. You can take a picture. But some foods recommended. Just take in. For those listening to the presentation online, it'll often say things like fermented cod liver oil, cream, usually raw cream, land proteins with fat, sea things like fish and oysters and sardines and stuff like that in cure tooth decay. Just another quick reminder, I'm worried that if not enough people support downstairs, they might not let me keep doing this. I got a cider, and it was like, the smallest one's like $1.75, they have $2. Surprisingly, so this was $2 for an apple cider, not too bad. They have juice down there, similar price, like $1.75, $2, which is crazy. Normally they gouge you for fresh juices. And maybe they're not fresh. I don't know. I haven't asked them. But this tastes pretty good. Let's see. Let's glance over catalog of vegetables. I really love this. So it's alphabetical. They don't have everything in here, but they have a lot of common stuff. So cauliflower. Separate cauliflower into flowerets. Steam about 10 minutes or until just tender. Transfer to a heated bowl and toss with a generous pat of butter, pepper, sea salt, and a few grindings of nutmeg. And then if you want a crazier, harder recipe, then they give other stuff too. There usually be 1 to 3 other recipes you can do it with. But oftentimes, I'll make things just the basic way, and then I'll pair them with other stuff that I know have also been made well too. So for some examples, I'll often just have it the way that it says. Another really great one is zucchini. So they'll have you, what was it, squash? Zucchini. Like all members of the squash family, zucchini is ruined by boiling. Even steaming gives results that are too watery. Instead, slice lengthwise, saute slices in butter and olive oil, finish with a squeeze of lemon juice and sea salt and pepper to taste. I love this because almost always it just takes the one thing. Like, you get that from the store, and you don't have to remember to look for a recipe for all these other things. If you have the time, great, it's even better. But just knowing how to do it on its own with some salt and butter and olive oil, knowing which ones to do lemon juice, which ones to do black pepper, which ones not to, it's just really nice.
How does freeze drying play into this? If we have a freeze dryer, can you
So freeze
see that it doesn't lose the nutrients, but does it?
freeze drying, in my understanding, is one of the better ways to preserve outside of fermentation, of course.
Right.
Many people, say it's really great. I'm sure you lose some things. I'm sure some things are damaged. When things are reconstituted from freeze drying, I hear a lot of times the results are awesome.
Yeah.
Like and like freeze dried meals that you can buy, a lot of times it's surprisingly good for it having been super light and devoid of water before. I don't remember. I would assume all the enzymes are dead, which is going to happen if you cook something very much anyway.
Yeah.
So it probably won't have enzymes. It will.
Dehydrated things do enzymes?
Not typically. If enzymes die at a pretty low heat, I want to say somewhere between, I don't know for sure, somewhere between maybe 90 and 120 degrees, probably. I'm not fully sure. So it'll probably lose enzymes. Maybe the proteins will be denatured. I don't remember all of the benefits and downsides, but it's one of the better ways to preserve, especially for prepping for shitstorms.
Yeah.
Pardon my French. Like you can have a lot of stuff very light with decent nutrition. It's pretty good. Don't only eat freeze dried. Oh, and I've also heard if you do rely on freeze dried a ton for a long period of time, it can really mess with your gut. I don't know fully why, so be careful. But it's a decent way. Sweet. Questions, comments? You guys have been great. I really appreciate it. No questions is a bad sign, and you guys have had great questions. This book is amazing. If you've got the time to really dive in and peruse, it's awesome. One way that I'd recommend reading this is to go to the first page of each both large and small category. It's usually about 1 to 4 pages of just awesome stuff. And so in the catalog of vegetables, I'm sure a lot of this highlighted stuff is talking about the anti-nutrients in plants trying to protect themselves and how to disarm them. And if you follow these instructions, you won't get too many of those things. And this will tell you a lot of what you're avoiding by following these procedures. So take in, a little bit. You don't have to read through the entire thing, and the sidebars are interesting. If you read through all of that and the recipes, it's going to take a long time. Just hitting the chapter headings or whatever you want to call them. Like, this is real short. A lot of them are real short. Ground meats. That's great. And then this has so many sections and appendices that are awesome. If you want to get real hard into the science behind it, it's got fats, carbohydrates, proteins. So you got your macronutrients. Then you've got some big topics like milk products, enzymes, salts, all those things. And then it's got really cool stuff like a word about equipment. Like, what do you really need? And if you want more, what brands, and it's got specific brands you can order and good stuff there. It's got kitchen tips and hints and tricks and stuff, and it's very, very helpful. And I can't remember if it's in there or in the back. Okay, limited time, limited budget guidelines. And it starts out saying like no one deserves more empathy than like this single mother with like a full-time job. Like, you don't have a ton of time and money typically to like buy do all the things and to buy the really expensive products in the health food store. And so it's got like, here, the biggest bang for your buck, like make bone stock. It's cheap. If you can get a good source of bones, it's cheap and really great for you and all that stuff. So that's a really great one. I almost every time I pick this thing up, I go straight to the recipe index, and you look up steak or you look up bread, and it'll have like bread, and it'll have like natural yeast bread and basic sourdough bread and cheater sourdough bread and all this kind of stuff. So rather than trying to go through here and just thumb through a section to find what you're looking for, the recipe index is awesome. Yeah. I'd love any critiques, any feedback. I know I say a lot, and I hope to fix it somehow someday. If I talk too fast, let me know. Anything I can improve on, anything that'd be helpful for future classes. If you think of it later, message me in the group or text me or call me or whatever. I want to find how I can add the most value and help people out, and someday maybe package it as a product, but for now just kind of give out good stuff. And cool.
Get a community of people like-minded people.
Exactly.